Hey, what's happening, people? How's it going? I'm on time. Woo! It is Friday. You're all very welcome to Buckshot number 73 for the 31st of August. That's it. Summer done. Out the fucking gap. It's autumn tomorrow, isn't it? Is that autumn? Oh, we're lighting the fires on with the big coat. Yeah, that's it. Fucking autumn. Or to our American friends, the fall. Where people just fall. You just fall over regularly. I don't know what's fall? What's that derivative of? Just shit falling out of the trees? Is that it? Fucking hell, lads. You could do better than that, couldn't you? Come on. Oh, you're very welcome. Friday. Fucking lovely. Oh, I won't keep you long. Thank you very much for everybody on the Patreon that's subscribing. I don't know why I'm shouting. Just very excited to get this done, get it out on time. To everyone on Patreon that signed up, good on you. Another video gone up this week. And I'll do that. I'll keep on putting up the videos and I'll try to think of more exclusive content. I mean, like I said, it'll get to a tier system just the next fucking 3. November is really when I'll be able to sit down. That's the way if you saw the fucking calendar, just the bizarreness of shit on the fucking calendar. It's just... host, like I got booked for a gig, host, like where I basically get to roast the Garda College. You know what I mean? Like that'll give you the bizarreness of it. Anyway, if you haven't heard of Patreon, it'd be fantastic if you had a look at it. The link will be in the description of this. It's essentially where you can sling a couple of dollars towards the old podcast to keep it running. Buy new gear. So I'm going to be hopefully podcasting at the Vodafone Comedy Carnival. VCC 18. Hopefully I'll get something set up there, either in the Roisin Dove or maybe the Spiegel tent during the day or one of those, or just one of the venues around the place, and we'll get a couple of famous acts on like that. Gonna have to have the good gear bought at that stage. So, and that's the whole idea of it. It's just keeping the podcast going and keeping it getting better and getting it better like that. If I could pump out one a day, it'd be fucking amazing. At least another one, but I'd like to, you know what? If there's going to be another one, I think I'll make that one utterly exclusive to patrons. We'll have that a discussion of the day kind of thing. You know what I mean? I'll have involvement, full on questions from only patrons. Because it's not that I want to exclude anybody, but you need to give people something exclusively. That's what you have to do with Patreon. Also, thank you very much. Somebody else bought some stickers from the Buckshot fucking shop at trepublic.com. Give that a look. It's also in the description. Gigs coming up next week. Lavery's on Wednesday the 5th, and then the Laughter Lounge all weekend, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Laughter Lounge in Dublin. I will also be taking over their Facebook and their Instagram on Tuesday and Wednesday. So if you're on that, that's where my Instagram will be going. Moving swiftly along, the Bazaar. Oh yeah, the Bazaar, like I said, if you're around, if you are going to the Ploughing Championship, call over, see me. There could be a possibility of winning an iPad. I'll be at the bus airing stand, hosting that all day, all 3 days. And like I said, I'll be at the Vodafone Comedy Carnival. I'll be doing bits for the Roisin Dove throughout the country, and then I'll be there at the weekend in Galway. Here comes the fucking dog. Hello, dog. Woo! What's happening, Baroness? Jump up, kiddo. Yeah, got your new name tag. You're joining the podcast. Fucking yeah. How exciting is that new tennis ball I got you? It's fucking class, isn't it? Anyway, moving on to today's guest. Today's guest is a gentleman by the name of Andrew Dorman. Yes, we did discuss his name. No, he does not secure doors or work in bar industry or anything like that. He's both a historian and a comedian. His history is kind of it's on the kind of the war side of things, the military side of things, and it's just what piqued my interest. And we've met each other at a couple of gigs. I got a spin home, dropped him home one night. Off you go, dog. And like that, I mean, it piqued my interest. Hell of a nice guy. We had a great time chatting. So please enjoy and go for it. Enjoy the fantastic Andrew Dorman. We're live. Well, live as pre-record can fucking be. Andrew Dorman, how are you keeping?
I'm well, how are you, Tom?
I'm good, thank you very much for doing it.
Yeah, no problem.
We talked on various points about actually doing it, because it's like a busman's holiday nearly talking to other comedians, but when people actually have interesting shit in the background, it's like, oh yeah, no, I prefer to talk about that actually, yeah.
Yeah. Because the first time we bumped into each other was at that gig where I was harassed by that American girl, and you took so little sympathy.
Oh my god. Yeah, that was the night in... Yeah, but you'd have... Like, Jesus, you'd work on your hands even by... That was the first night I met you, and in fairness, you like we talked, we kind of game planned it before you went up. You conquered, you divided, you sided with... Like, you'd one messy fucking Scottish bloke, and then you this fucking complete plague of an American thing. She was just...
something else.
What? Like, what? But it's only in... Oh, I suppose you get it kind of in all the club, but it's only in that particular club.
Yeah.
Where you get the matters, like. Yeah. But it's in Temple Bar too, like, so it's like...
It's where they're truly stoked.
It's where the belly is of the beast, like, isn't it, when it comes to fucking mad jokes thrown up a comedy club. But you dealt well with it that night, but then... yeah... To be fair, your face told 1,000 words. Because you that other fucking American dose from the other side of the room who'd been drinking shots with people.
Oh, they got the American-Irish flag combo on his t-shirt.
Yeah, you know you're in for trouble there. Like. Yeah. And then you do one on the other side, and your face... I think I took a picture of your face. Did. Yeah, your face just told 1,000 words, you poor bastard, just getting plagued. God. How'd you... I don't know if... No, because I was closing, so I don't know... How did you break away from that moment?
You bailed me out.
I did. Yeah. I did.
You came over. Can I talk to you, Andrew? And got me out of there, but I was between a rock and a very hard place.
Fucking disaster. Oh my good Jesus Christ. How's the... Because you were saying that to give you an inside track to the listeners into how we started chatting, because it wasn't about comedy at all. It was about your everyday work.
Yeah, I am a PhD student. And I also teach in UCD. I teach history there. So I don't take the lectures, I take the tutorials. So I help out the lecturers doing that sort of thing. And then I'm doing a bit of that with my PhD in DCU as well. So we have two timing one university, but that's okay.
What by the tutorials, what do you mean? So you follow up to what the boys were teaching in the lectures, is it?
Yeah. So I drill home what they were saying. And then on top of that, you want to... it's usually looking up for things like primary documents. That's
okay, yeah.
Crack. So here's a piece of old text. I'm going to help you guys translate it and get as much from it as you can, so you can then use it in your essays later.
Oh, right. Well, you've been down the road, like. Yeah. And typically, what did you study in college then?
History and economics.
Right.
And then a master's in history after.
And history, it seems to be war is your most...
Yeah, it's military history, specifically looking at the Irish emigre soldier and that sort of concept of the foreign soldier in a different army.
Okay, yeah.
That'd be the main focus.
Because I have a great granduncle who fought for the British Army.
Yeah,
because his family wouldn't pay for the priesthood. he wanted to be in a uniform by the sounds of things.
Well, I suppose that's a nice change of pace.
Yeah, but he got killed. Oh. So. Well, no, they very nice layout. God, the British do. They do graveyards, military graveyards well, don't they?
Oh, yeah.
God, they do it well. It was in... oh, Jesus, where is it? It's not Stratford. It wasn't far from Stratford. I know that, anyway, as a drive. But it was grid, like... And we asked the guy... There was actually a front desk kiosk to ask. And he was like, oh, yeah, absolutely. And it was... Found it, like, within 2 minutes, like.
Have you ever been to the graveyards in Normandy?
No.
It's similar, but like they'll have each graveyard will have its own book where you can look up the plot number and everything. So I suppose we went on a tour of them, and it's a bit macabre, but we tried to find a Doorman in each and every one of them, and we did, including the German one, which was slightly concerning.
How did they spell the German one?
It was the exact same spelling, Dorman.
Right. Yeah. So what is it? A German name? Because that was what I wanted to get. I was going to get onto that too. Like,
I don't think so.
Come on, you're a PhD student of history.
Well, there was a Doorman. There was a Field Marshal or Major Doorman who served with Montgomery in the desert, although he crossed Montgomery a couple of times because Monty wanted to do things one way and Doorman wanted to do things a different way. So he was shipped off to Ireland, basically, and set up shop in Cavan.
Right.
Yeah. So that's as far back historically speaking as I think we go. I know that there was also a Doorman who was involved with Connolly. He was one of the people who locked himself up in the...
GPO.
No, not the GPO.
The biscuit factory. Was it the biscuit
No,
factory?
it was post-1916. This is worker stuff. Worker... 1923 worker riot thing. I can't remember. It's gone out of me. Liberty Hall. That's it.
Right. We're going to get there.
Yeah, locked himself up in Liberty Hall and with a couple of others. And started the big strikes that happened in the 20s.
Oh, right.
He contributed to that quite directly, so...
So was he like a teamster or what? Like, was he...
Yeah, he was just pissed off, basically.
Because I mean, there must be no end of the amount of times you've been asked about being called Doorman.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's a profession in itself.
Yeah,
like,
if non-determinism was real, I would be probably bar staff.
Yeah.
If. Dodge that bullet, I think.
So you, because you were saying, because I'd totally forgotten about your podcast. And did this start up in relative recent? Because we were talking about you doing a podcast on the drive home one night. I dropped you back to your place.
Oh no, I do a quite unrelated podcast. It's basically 4 nerds playing a game, which is very good fun. But
and do you put it up on Twitch then, or what do you do?
No, it's on Libsyn. It's called Too Old for RPG. It's basically 4 lads who are probably a little bit too old to be doing this kind of thing, and it's very good fun.
There is no end to the age. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I had Lou McGee on this a couple of weeks ago, and he was in Demo and Ivor with me, and he is game crazy, crazy gamer, and he's practically my age, and he's a father, and he says himself, he goes to sleep at night better with games being played in the background.
Oh, 100%.
Are you the same way?
I'd be the same. Oh yeah.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Because I'm taking full credit, don't give a shit, for his new podcast. Bit of Bants, basically, is what they call it. Because I didn't know what... In fairness, I need to message him and go, that's a shit name. I just don't like it.
Okay.
It's in no way gamer related, but it's absolutely gamer related. The 2 lads are obsessed.
Yeah.
So, he started it after, basically, I put him under pressure here that he had to have a podcast by the time this went out the following week. And he did. Albeit he called it a bit of Bants.
Yeah.
Lad,
might want to change that.
Give it something like fucking DEFCON 4 or something. You know what I mean? Give it, some kind of fucking name.
You can work on it.
Yeah, Jesus Christ. The, and how, you did history and economics. Why, that was straight out of school. What was, had you an unbelievable fucking history teacher or what? Because our fellow would, it was all shite history. You're going, no, I want to know why they went in and caused that. Why were they at war with this crowd? They were just fucking at war, Tom. It's no. What were the South Africans doing there?
Yeah, my history teacher in secondary school was not the most qualified man, I think would be the nicest way of putting it. He had a passion for the subject, but he didn't really know that much about it. But I think my personal interest in history stems from my dad.
Right.
Because although he works in science, he is a massive historian.
Right.
And so I was being fed war movies as a kid. I grew up on things like The Battle of Britain, Zulu, that sort of thing.
I was going to say Zulu, yeah.
What a movie. And so that was sort of what this was sparked the interest, and then it sort of went from there. And he was also a big collector of small figurines, little models, which...
the little lead fellas?
They're plastic, but yeah, the same style. And he used to set up dioramas of that, so I got interested in that, and setting up the wee figures with my dad, and him painting them as well. So that whole thing sort of came together.
But that's a massive thing, isn't it? Setting up the likes of the dioramas of war or stuff. Have you been? I don't know. Did I ask you this because we were talking about because you have a big project on the go as well over in Scotland, don't you? But have you been down to the Toy Soldier Museum in West Cork?
I haven't had the chance. No.
It's a stark drive, I will tell you, because you're essentially kind of heading. I don't know. You're heading. Is it beyond Bandon or what? But I think it's beyond Bandon, kind of Bantry direct, and just out of nowhere on a country road. Big sign. And I think, I could be wrong, but on the same road, I think there's a butter museum.
Of course.
But these are things that should be on, I think they should be on more country roads, even if it's a museum of dandelions, fucking make something, you know what I mean?
It's like Stratham has a butterfly museum.
It does have a butterfly museum.
Nothing else.
But you know what's annoying? I wanted to go to see, because I like obscure museums for the sake, not for the macabre thing, but just obscure things. I want to see, the Museum of Forks.
Yeah.
Why not? If you meet somebody that's that into fucking forks. But I went to see the Butterfly Museum, and it was shut between October and March or something. I said, what happens to butterflies? It's not like they hibernate. I can understand, outdoorsy places, would say if they have a bunch of llamas, you're going to be wandering around amok and shit, or whatever, but I got so disappointed. So that now the Butterfly Museum is completely off my fucking...
Lost faith in the butterfly.
Lost faith altogether.
It's a tragic loss, really.
And where... so obviously that's where history came from then.
Yeah.
And then, as you said, is military then a kind of a spin-off off the side of it then, for your own personal kind of...
I suppose that will come mainly from the movies.
Right, same as...
Yeah, because as a kid, my favorite movie was Waterloo.
Was it?
Yeah, because we used to sit down and watch that pretty much every Christmas, and it's a brilliant piece because there's no CGI or anything. It's all extras. They basically conscripted the Russian army into Napoleonic uniforms and said, "This is how to do it," and they did it. And it's a spectacle.
Do you get withered now looking at? Is there any movies now you're going, Ara for?
There's been a couple recently. Like War Horse was pretty grim. That was pretty tragic.
It was a bit cheesebally, wasn't it? Like the horse is basically Rocky.
Yes.
Do you know?
Yeah. My main problem with that movie was there's a scene in it where...
Good, no, I want to hear this now. Yeah.
I've got a lot of
this is where the meat gets... yeah.
There's a scene where a load of horses charge through this German camp and they sabre a load... Well, the officers on top sabre a load of...
God, it would be good if the horses could sabre as
right.
well. You know, why not? If you're going to tell total bullshit, why not have the horses with knives?
Honestly, that would make War Horse far better if the horse fought back. But then they go past the camp and the Germans have the second line of defences beyond the camp. And they have these machine guns set up on the ground. And the machine guns open fire, and then there's this solemn scene where all of the horses, without their riders, flow through the German defences. And you're thinking, were they only able to shoot the riders off the top? What are they aiming at?
That'd be way harder.
Yeah, shoot at
a
the
little
horses.
bloke sitting on a giant half-ton fucking animal, like.
I mean, surely you know where to aim at that stage.
Yeah, Christ. Yeah, again, like, and I mean, yeah, War Horse, I suppose what's the play done first?
Yes, I think so.
So I suppose they wanted the big money was behind it at that stage, so they went, this one's going to make fucking moolah. Like, so it's, I mean, and like, because you hear fellas talking about like ex-vets, because I did the J1, and I totally did live out, way beyond my visa, in America, and I just found vets very interesting, like, because there was a couple of lads lived beside us, and sure, their lives had completely fallen apart, like, you know, and they were hard on the sauce and stuff. We used to buy them beer. Because the lads, there was no, hey, let's talk about how you should give up alcohol.
Yeah.
They were well on the road. This is the late 90s, early 2000s. So the Vietnam War had, you know, but they were, but the lads reckoned out, because we used to ask them, you know, they were openly talking about, we used to ask them about the, what was the most accurate movie, like. And they universally had said, taking things from different ones. Like, they'd said, the drill sergeant was pretty spot on in Full Metal Jacket. Yeah. He was pretty close to what the real thing was.
Sure, he was a drill sergeant.
He was, yeah. And then, but they had said the weirdness level of not Heart of Darkness. That's the movie about the movie. What was it? Apocalypse Now.
Yeah.
Just the weirdness of, what the like, you come from just a regular Joe background, and then all of a sudden you're dropped into, what? And there was no real... They didn't fully know. I mean, communism was what apparently they were fighting, like, you know. But it was more of a kind of an arm wrestle. Like, poor old Vietnam got the slap because if they felt if they let it go, China would take it over. I suppose, wasn't that the vibe? Yeah, it was just the American containment policy, and it's sort of the lessons learned from Korea. Because in Korea, the Chinese actually got involved, and things went very, very downhill very, very quickly for the Americans. That's a war that swung back and forth. But in Vietnam, was them trying to contain it, and things went a bit out of hand. I suppose would be the nicest way to put it. Jesus, it did, though, didn't it? Yeah. But I remember, like you're watching movies and it's all sensationalised, of course, from the other side. But have you watched the Netflix documentary on the Vietnam War with Ken Burns one? No, but I've heard very good things. Oh, it's good. It's good. It's unbelievable. Like, I would say from your point of view, you'd watch and go, yeah, no complaints there. That's exactly what happened. Yeah, because it's so, like, there's so many episodes, every corner is covered, like, you know what I mean? And it just kind of shows the half-arsedness that was going on by the Americans. Like they hired as their, you know, I suppose, head of fucking war, I suppose they hired a bloke from GM, General Motors. Like. And now the man knew cars and he knew how to build a factory, but the facts and figures stuff, like, and all the rest of it, like, but I suppose it doesn't really change. It's just all about money, really. Isn't that it? Like, oh yeah, 100%. Absolutely. Vietnam was particularly brutal. Although I think it's interesting as well because Vietnam was one of the most polarising portrayals of it in movies. Because movies either go for the massive sensationalism or they try and be so like nitty gritty that maybe that is accurate. I don't know. Yeah. I mean, Hamburger Hill in particular, that's quite a hardcore representation of it, but it bombed in the box office compared to some of the other ones. Why was that, I wonder? I think it was because oversaturation. Right, yeah. Jeez, you didn't have enough at that stage. Yeah. But you talked about do you listen to Jesus, not History on Fire.
The Hardcore History?
Hardcore History, yeah.
I listened to it on and off.
Yeah.
It's pretty intense, though.
There's a lot in a 5-hour episode there, like, you know, I mean, there's one thing, like, the Conspiracy Guys, there's 3 lads chatting and there's a bit of crack in it, but this is just full on, like.
Drudgery.
I was listening to the one about because I've always been kind of fascinated with, I suppose, anthropology more than anything else. Like, why do people look or behave the way they are, or why do certain foods suit certain people? Like, you know, because when you I like that. My father and his uncle and stuff would be crazy for like tracing back family trees and stuff like that. But they were very much on. They can't trace either side of. Like he cannot pretty much. There's almost no foreign infiltration at all. Yeah. In our family. Right. On either side. They've gone way, way back and they can't find it beyond the old fucking Celts, we'll say. Do you know? Well, maybe not as far as the Celts, but we'll say nearly pre-Christian times. Like, so I suppose like that, I should probably be only eating moss, basically, you know.
By that logic.
But yeah, that's my logic. And like that, I mean, is that a thing that, I suppose, was it out of the history is what I'm getting to is, did you just go, right, fuck everything else now, war for me?
Yeah, I suppose. It's very difficult to just study war without being in the army, I guess, because the sort of traditional military history stuff is all to do with, okay, this is how we used to fight, this is how we'll implement that in the future. Yeah. And there's some amazing books about that. There's a book called The History of Warfare, which goes right back to prehistory, and then how...
back to the cans, like, or
maybe further back than that.
Right.
Why certain groups were more warlike than others, and like he goes as far back as, okay, if you were an agrarian farmer, and your main crop was things like wheat, then you would be far less warlike than someone who worked with animals that they had to kill because they're predetermined. Or what's the word? What's the fucking word? They know how to kill things.
Genetically, like, is that what they're saying nearly, like?
Well, it's ingrained in them.
Okay, so even your attitude from day dot is highly aggressive.
Death is normal.
Okay, right, yeah.
And also those people have to be more mobile, so they're more willing to go on things like chariots and horses. So when they go up against these agrarian farmers, that's why you had these charioteering empires setting up shop. And then later on, that's why the Huns are so successful. And arguably the Mongols as well.
Right.
It's that predisposition, that's the word I'm looking for.
There we go. There we go.
You got to stop looking for it and it'll come to you. But yeah.
I mean, there's was it Genghis Khan's, like the Mongols, did they kind of believe that anybody who settled was a fucking animal, like? Was that their attitude? Because they were always on the move, so they must have looked down on people that actually settled.
Well, I suppose they just saw them as easy targets.
Yeah.
I mean, the Khan, he did, I'm not entirely sure that he just thought they were uncivilized.
Right.
Because what is civilization if you're a horde? Right?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see what his point of view of it was.
Wouldn't it though? Like, you know, just going, I mean, what's your problem, guys? They're horses. We live on horses, you know.
Would you not enjoy the countryside of it?
Yeah. Jeez, what did he own? Like, what did he conquer in the end? Like, I mean, because you hear of Alexander the Great pretty much had it all. Like, he, you know, what did Khan? Where was his coverage?
China, mainly. He punched into China, and you think he did Persia as well. But then his sons took up the mantle, and they were the ones that really pushed into Europe.
Oh, right. Yeah. How far into Europe did they get?
Poland, I think.
Mother of Jesus.
Yeah, Bohemia, Poland area. That sort of.
Right. Fucking hell, I mean, it's ambitious, isn't it, when all you have is horses?
And they got turned back by a Christian Islam confederation.
Christians and Islamic...
They came together to fight the Huns. Or not the Huns, the Mongols, probably.
Where?
In the Holy Land.
Right.
Yeah.
By God. Literally.
Yeah. Jesus,
because, I mean, we were only talking, or I was listening to another podcast, it was about the Knights Templar. And how they're after getting a bit of a bad rap, like.
Yeah.
But, it would seem, though, when you go rooting at it, that they were mercenaries or whatever to a degree, but they were, the initial standout thing was, they were all right fellas, like, they just got given a fucking role. But it all got dumped on them more so that they were the baddie, more so because really it was down to England.
It was down to money.
Yeah.
Money more so. The French king wanted all of their cash. And just like the way Henry VIII dissolved the monasteries, he decided the best thing to do is to make these guys out to be far worse than they actually are. And force them under torture to confess to these crimes that they may have committed. It was mainly things like, during the initiation ceremonies, you were forced to kiss another man or something like that. These hedonistic acts. And that sort of thing. So they were just... It was all bullshit, really.
Yeah.
Well, fabricated bullshit, and the witch hunt worked.
Fuck, yeah. But there was a period there, though, after Roman times. I know I'm leaping all over the fucking place here, but there was a period after Roman times where the kingdom really went backwards, didn't it? And is it true, like, Ireland kind of were the last bastion of, they knew how to write and scholars and all the rest of it?
Yeah, there's that golden age of Irish history where all the writing and stuff was done there. But Europe, although the Dark Ages, they weren't as dark as people think.
Really?
Like, there was... The Roman Empire doesn't just dissolve completely. There's still bastions of it dotted around the place. And some places did very well, some places did less well. What the issue was, or what sort of provoked, I suppose, Christian Europe into getting their act together, was the threat of Islam coming from Spain, or from North Africa through Spain. That could be quite provocative to say. I wouldn't quote me on that, but
totally quote me on that. This fact there by Andrew Dorman.
Please don't quote me on that. Well, I think that there is an argument to that. That I think that up until that point, it was just a lot of European tribes bitching at each other and that sort of thing. And when the rapid conquest of Islam from Arabia threatens Spain and then gets as far as France, and of course I think they sacked Marseille as well or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, they got very far into Europe at that stage, and then they were driven back by Charles Martel. But that would force you to get your act together. It would, I suppose, wouldn't it? The great threat, I suppose.
And there was talks. Now I suppose our history. There's great history on like what the Romans did now. But tell me this: what's your opinion on how or why the Romans didn't conquer Ireland?
Well, that was always the point.
But what's the point of any fucking place?
Yeah, but I mean, Ireland is just...
I mean, agri-wise, it would have been handy for them just to have a little outpost there, like. Or was it that? Fuck that.
I mean, if you're looking across at Ireland from England on a clear day, and you see it over there, and maybe, because they did come over here, they did visit, and they set up little forts and stuff, but I suppose it's just why bother? I mean,
right.
I mean, if they'd pushed a little bit further, they might have found some nice gold and stuff, but...
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe they were more content to trade.
Right.
That would be my guess.
Was it at the wind down, or at that stage, was it like, look, we've conquered all we need to conquer?
Yeah.
It's all just live in harmony here.
It's when they start building things like Hadrian's Wall and stuff.
Right, okay.
Containing what they've already got.
Because, I mean, the mythical history of it all was that they came across, like, what I had read on the thing, well, Lord knows where I read it, was that they couldn't fathom the savagery of us. Is that when the savagery more so of our women.
Oh, really?
Because there was ferocious, warrior women, and they just couldn't fathom what kind of a beast of a human would allow women to war like men.
Yeah.
But apparently, back in the time, it was totally okay.
Yeah. Which
kind of makes sense when you meet some Irish women. It's.
You can't be saying that now, Tom.
Hey, I'm just saying they're very strong, independent, and that's all I'm saying.
Yeah. Actually, I'm going to have to correct myself. The Christian Islamic Confederation fought against the tribe of Turks. The Muslims beat back the Khan on their own. However, it's an interesting point, because at a gig recently, I do a bit about the Boston Massacre, and some angry American who didn't take kindly to me taking the piss out of him said, "When did the Boston Massacre happen?" And I said with great confidence, 1775.
Right.
Which is wrong. It happened in 1770. But it shows that if you say something with confidence, people are willing to believe you.
Yeah. That's the thing. Like, the article I read was with gusto. It was written matter-of-factly. And like, how matter-of-factly can you be? I mean, we were only really properly recording history, maybe properly recording it, probably the last 20 years. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, even there's still hearsay back to the 70s and 80s. You know what I mean? Like, but so I mean, you're still. But because there's some, when you do read, like, it's great, the likes of Grania Whale and these things, you hear she had her teeth filed down into spikes or whatever, like. But I remember, I don't know where I heard it, but it was the crazy shit that they would do in war where nothing's off the table. No, I know there's a Geneva Convention and all the rest. We're supposed to be, we'll say way pre that.
Yeah.
There was something, I don't know who it was, but they had a thing for, they would light a camel on fire. Have you heard this?
I've heard of lighting pigs on fire.
Yeah. The pigs one was all in the same story.
Yeah.
It's all the same. So I suppose pigs they go up pretty well with the high fat content.
Yeah, you cover them in pitch first to really get it going.
Yeah.
The fat will sustain the fire thereafter. And it's some nice crackling.
Propulsion wise, they'd probably get going too with the fire.
Oh, yeah,
so I mean, Jesus, these are energy efficient missiles, basically.
Yeah, they're they're the Teslas of the ancient world. They're designed to repel elephants. But that was the idea behind that.
Right. Yeah. Okay, because obviously, I mean, what are they going to do?
Yeah.
To repel elephants. So
that was the thing.
Now we need to know more about who had elephants on their side.
This was, I think that was a Roman idea to repel elephants. They'd be fighting, I believe, like sort of Persian, that sort of area.
So so obviously it was total fantasy movie, like. But if you see something like 300,
oh god,
yeah, I know.
Well, that's based on a comic book.
Okay, oh, is it? Yeah, right.
There's a comic book called 300 that is loosely based on Greek propaganda, which is loosely based on the actual battle.
The Brave 300, that they called it, the Hot Gates or whatever.
Where there definitely were 300 Spartans, along with 7,000 other Greeks.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Those poor bastards from, like, Athenians and stuff like that, they were told, you're not getting in the book.
Yeah, there was 300 Spartans, and I think there was, where the Thespians, I think. No, Thespians are actors.
Yeah, I was just waiting for that to drop because I was going, please say. There's a bunch of guys standing there like
bastards.
Number one, probably quite anxious over the whole thing, and probably really wanted to perform more than actually fight.
Yeah, musical theatre. Right?
Yeah, never mind your burning pigs. Put a bunch of fucking thesps out in front of them. A bunch of lads on their fucking gap year from England, all called things like Tarquin and fucking Harry.
Tell you, dropping napalm on the Edinburgh Fringe Royal Mile.
Have you been over to it?
Yeah, I was over there the past.
Oh yeah. How did it go?
The term unmitigated disaster is thrown about a lot these days.
No,
it was rough. We got pretty shafted with our venue.
Oh fuck!
The first place was supposed to be good, but it was very out of the way and was flooded. So they moved us to what kind of looked like a suburb of like downtown Mogadishu. They just threw some pallets up against a wall and said, "This is your room."
No. Where did you actually end up in the, like...
It was, the venue itself was called Tolbooth Market and had 4 very nice rooms, but we were in the beer garden. It was tough.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
And who were you doing it with?
PBH.
Right. And was you doing an hour or were you doing...
No, I was doing a split show with Judy J.
Oh, yes, yeah. It can be rough, like, we did our first time I did a split show with Sean Hegarty from Belfast, from Lurgan.
Yeah.
And, it was actually in a great spot, just off Southbridge, but it was the most nondescript venue you've ever seen. You would pass it a million times and not see it. It was it was a coffee shop for charity. Yeah.
Okay.
The proceeds went to charity, but they didn't even make much of a sign outside about it. You didn't really know what it was. And then we were downstairs, and then it was like this sliding door into the venue, and the venue was fine and all the rest of it, but it was at the turning point of when you had to get really commercial to get your show off the ground.
Yeah.
Because like our first ever show was about 5 people in to a room that could hold 60. So that, and I've talked about this on the podcast when disastrous gigs, and this was a woman broke down crying 5 minutes into my set.
Oh Christ.
And it was, as it turns out, when I asked her what was up, this is 3:30 in the day show. She'd been drinking since 10, and it was in memorial of her father who'd been murdered a month previous outside the door of the venue.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah. So that was that. And
thanks for coming.
It was horrific, like. But, I mean, there was a couple of good gigs. Was it that you couldn't get numbers in? Was that it?
I mean, the first venue we got nobody in. I mean,
right.
Have you ever told jokes to one person in a room before?
Yeah.
That's great crack. So we did that a couple of times. And then the last day in the first venue was the Saturday, and we ended up with 13 in, but most of that was a family of 5 with their kids.
Right.
Which was a bit awkward.
How young were we talking?
13, 14.
Okay.
A bit weird.
I mean, you wouldn't be blue, but at the same time, you want to have the relaxation where if you need to tell a dick joke,
you can tell a dick joke.
Yeah,
Absolutely. You want that creative freedom. But then the new place, we pulled half of them because no one wanted to sit, because it's Scotland, in the wind and the rain. Who's going to want to sit outside?
Oh, it's actually outdoors.
Yeah. I mean...
fuck me, it was actually outdoors.
The best air-conditioned venue in the whole place. It was just pallets up against a wall.
Holy mother of Jesus.
Yeah, it was shocking.
Oh, man. And that's the thing, like, you're over a barrel, like, what you turn around, you fucking blast PBH with a fucking, an email. They're just going to go, yeah, fuck you.
Well, I mean, they tried to sort it, in fairness to them. Because the first place, not only was it out of the way, but as I said, the room we were in was flooding. There was a leak in the wall.
And how far, where was the other place then?
So the first place was opposite the stand.
Okay, over in the old town. Yeah, even the stand is tough. Like, I know lads who have gigs, like, totally wired, have been over there on years, and they find it tough to get numbers over, like, because it's over the other side of the town, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, the Fringe is on the other side, being honest.
Yeah.
So that was rough. And then the new place was at the end of the Royal Mile in Canongate.
Right down the bottom.
Yeah. But the thing is, it had 4 stages, so there were people around, but no one was willing to sit in the beer garden, which I completely understand.
Yeah. Jeez. I mean, it is an established thing, but the problem with the Fringe is, if you looked at it from a business point of view, it's the worst fucking decision you could ever make.
Oh, God, yeah.
Because, not just financially, but what you're saying is, hold on, you want me to take a product that almost 2,000... The city is now flooded with this product, and you want me to take my product there and try and sell it at the same time as everybody else is selling their product.
Yeah.
That's the maddest thing ever.
I suppose that comes down to personalising your show.
Yeah.
Like, the best show I saw was by a comedian called Paul Duncan McGarity, I think.
Right.
But it was called A Practical Guide to Attacking Castles. Now, obviously, I'm biased.
Yeah, I can see why that was right up your street. Yeah.
But it was at 12:30 in the afternoon. But he went out. He was flying me in chainmail. Like, he did the gig in chainmail.
Wow.
Like, serious dedication, and it was great. It was an hour of castle material.
You must have been out of your fucking mind, were you?
So good.
Sitting there like crown on your head, the whole lot, just going, this is just the best ever.
This is amazing.
But you know what? He sold it and he went hard at it. Fair play. Because, like, there was one, somebody put up, like, it was, I don't know who it was, put up an Instagram story. I've since unfollowed them because they actually found this, they actually wrote amazing show, right? Because I cannot sit by while this goes on. But it seemed to be in a good venue, who I would imagine in the caves. It looked like, I could be wrong, but they were sitting front row. And it was a guy walked out in a gorilla suit and like an old man paddy cap on him. Sat down on an old chair and sat there motionless and silent for 58 minutes.
Fuck's sake.
Yeah. And the audience, because of the awkwardness of it, and I'm guessing some wanker will try and tell me that it was, you know,
a
metaphor for something, and that how people can entertain themselves, because they did for a finish. It had obviously been raining outside, so they, bit by bit, different people got up on stage and tried to stack different things on him as he sat there motionless, like umbrellas. Umbrellas became this thing, and then the final picture on this person's story was like they were all up giving him a group hug, and they got a photograph, and then on 58 minutes they counted it down because it was like a stopwatch there. He stood up and walked the fuck off. That was an hour. Now, if there was anything, and I'm guessing it was it looked like a good venue, so I'm guessing it was ticketed.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, say what you will, maybe people came away and were entertained because they entertained themselves, but fuck right off. Do you know what I mean? There has to be an element of fuck right off, like.
Yeah.
But they also say, you know, so there's that element of it's gone to wanky town, like it really has gone to wanky town, like with some of the things. Also, if you've had somebody die in the family, that's or if you've had a really, really bad disease, that's a great one too. Like, you know, you're up for an award if you've got either one of them. Like, yeah.
God, yeah. Like the weirdest one I saw was it was, can I say his name? Oh yeah. So it was by this guy who calls himself the Story Beast. Okay, he was sort of like a London Jack Black, sort of type. And myself and another comic went to see it because it was 2 for Tuesday. And we had time to kill in the evening.
Yeah.
And it was ticketed. So we paid in, and we go in, and there's a pile of foliage and loam on the stage. And then the lights go down, and a hand produces itself from the loam. He's been on the stage the whole time. and he beckons.
How far in are you all in now? A couple of minutes at this stage?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And then, hand props up, points at the audience, and then this dramatic voiceover starts saying how the world's going to end and all this.
Okay.
Then he stands up and he's wearing a horse's head.
Okay.
And he starts dancing around like that, and his tech guy is saying into the mic over a rock song, the horse won't go away unless you give him a penny. And this goes on for about 5 minutes until one of the audience realizes, oh no, wait, he's actually serious. Someone has to give him a coin. And, someone puts a coin in his hand, the horse head come off, and then, oh, I'm this interdimensional prophet, and I'm here to tell you the world's going to end, and then there's 55 minutes of crap. And sketches and bits. He had a set in his hand, and it's paid for.
He had a set written on his fucking hand. Oh, fuck off.
Right?
No. I get, it's a good thing and a bad thing. Comedy is weird in that sense, in that you have to... Yes, it is open to interpretation, and it's for everybody, and there's something for everybody. But there has to be a level where you're going, man, you are cowboying this shit.
Yeah.
I mean, there are building regulations for bad builders to get good.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like there has to be. There fucking well has to be, like.
But what was weird was the audience were loving it.
Were they?
I mean, the comic I was with were confused at best. I mean, the best part of the performance was probably the Shakespearean rendition of Die Hard.
Okay.
He did like a summary of it. That was quite good. But the rest of it was like, oh, I'm going to build this diorama, but make it creepy in the style of Blue Peter. And then at the end, it's Tracy Island, and he plays the Thunderbirds theme and flies around the stage with Thunderbirds, and the audience are dying laughing. I was just confused as to why. Maybe he has a cult following. I don't know.
Probably does. Must do. Yeah. Must. Like you take that, right, and that's the obscurity of that, and then you look at somebody like Paul Curry.
Yes.
Who. Yeah, he's obscure, but his shit is so tight.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
His stuff is so tight. And that's not open for argument.
No.
That's even the driest person on the planet who go in and go, okay, I enjoyed none of that, but by God,
he's good.
That is good. You're very, very good at what you do. Like that, like it's the, I can't get on board with the open to interpretation stuff where it's like, look, I know you enjoy... See, I'm convinced this is what happens when a country has too many people. Because people want to be in teams.
Yeah.
People want to be in teams. And with religion falling apart, people now are devoid genetically of something to do.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
No doubt, yeah.
Like, and all of a sudden, that sports have become... It's totally okay now not to enjoy sports.
Yeah.
So, once upon a time, you all had to enjoy sports. And I'm sure there's people going, I fucking hate this shit, but I have to talk it. You know what I mean? And we've all been in those environments where people are talking about soccer where you're going... Oh, Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. Look, and you're trying to be polite. You're going, I know, yeah, Mourinho.
Yeah.
And you haven't the bollock and clue what's going on. But I do think that in a scenario like that, if you can actually create a little... And I probably have with the podcast a small bit. But I think what people like about my podcast is just... I don't dress it up in any way. But there is definitely a craft to it. And the people that I meet have something fucking to say.
Well...
You know what I mean? No, but you know what I mean? They have an interesting take on things. Like, we've already learned stuff off you. You know what I mean?
Again, not sure how much of that is accurate, but most of it is.
Trust me, they learn nothing from me. They learn nothing from me.
Fair.
It's an odd one, to Edinburgh Fringe, but did you do many were you up there a fortnight or?
Fortnight, yeah.
Right. And did you do many compilation shows and stuff like that?
Yeah, the compilation shows sort of keep you going when your own show's going to pot, right?
Yeah.
They were grand, for the most part. It was mainly Irish comics, but doing it with some English lads as well that I met.
Yeah.
So, all well and good.
It's like it is good for you to nearly come back and appreciate a decent gig. I bet you wouldn't mind having the room the night you had to deal with that crazy American.
The crazy American, yeah. Oof, that would have been a great gig over there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just a different story, right?
It is, but I mean, you either slog on with it or you one or the other. But it is tough. Like, how was Julie faring with it?
She did grand.
Julie's coming on in a couple of weeks, all right.
Yeah.
It's a fucking tough one. Like, how did two of ye?
So actually, in the same gig that we had the crazy experience together, same gig, different night.
Yeah,
it was pulled, and Julie and I were meant to be on, and she said something like, "I really want to go over to Edinburgh, but I don't have anyone to do it with." And I just lost the person I was going to go over with first because he got a real job, and I thought, "Yeah, okay,
yeah,
do you want to pop over?" And she said, "Yeah, sure, we'll sort it out," and that's how it ended up. So,
great,
happy convenience.
Yeah, I mean, and at least that's the thing. Half the battle is doing it with somebody sound like.
Yeah, exactly.
Julie is sound.
Oh,
like,
very
you know
sound,
what I mean?
Yeah.
Like this. Like I can only. Like I've known No, I was the only show I ever had with, and Sean is a sound bloke, like, but I mean, I've heard of people like teaming up, and then the show was going badly, and then you're kind of half falling out with each other. Then, God, that can make.
Oh no, we recognised immediately that we're just in this together, and we just powered through. It was really, really easy.
Yeah, sometimes there's nothing more depressing when you're there by yourself.
Yeah,
yeah. I did 10 days. I remember before, and it was like at 12 o'clock a night show. I had. Do you know? It was probably good in one way for if I had any semblance of fear left.
Yeah,
cause this broke it. It broke me forever. Like it'll never repair like that. You know what I mean? It was that Sparta moment. Like, you know what I mean? It was just
back on 300.
Yeah, it was Jesus, Mary and Joseph. When you're doing like a biker gang came in one night, like, and you know,
are we lads?
Yeah, and all you can do is just like. To be fair, I used almost no material. It was just animalistic, fucking shouting and roaring. Like, where did you get accommodation then? Because that's hard enough to come by.
I was staying down in Holyrood.
Okay, yeah.
A couple of other comedians, and that was grand. Staying on an airbed, which isn't always an interesting experience. I love going to bed on a mattress and waking up on the floor. That's always... Yeah.
It decides to deflate during the night.
Yeah, lovely.
How true? How true? Obviously, you saw 300. Went, oh Jesus! I mean, the story of that. But I do remember from primary school, junior school, being taught about our teacher. Actually, I remember we one teacher that was actually good. Out of the three of them, she was actually, and I remember learning like good history when we were in junior school.
Yeah,
and I remember learning about the Spartans and how basically she was saying like their shit wasn't tolerated. Like, you know what I mean? They were bred, like you said, purely. How does that come about? You think? Is it because they're born in a place that's shite for growing anything? I
suppose, yeah. I haven't looked that much. I haven't actually looked at it that much, but I just know that they needed to fight because Sparta famously had no walls.
Right.
It relied entirely on its army, so I suppose they had a cult of that.
Yeah.
There, and if you put forward the idea that a good soldier is the epitome of man, then that's what people are willing to sacrifice, kids to get. And that's what they did. But as compare that to somewhere like Athens, I suppose more civilized from a modern point of view, where philosophy was accepted as a concept. I suppose it's just different ideals.
It's I mean, when you think about like how that fell apart, like how does that not, when you like, how does that not sustain like throughout it? Like right now, you think of Greece, you think holiday destination.
Yeah,
there is almost
tax evasion.
And tax evasion, burning banks, and all the rest of it.
Yeah,
how the hell does that? Like, because we still try to hold on to our Celtic warrior thing, like, and all the rest of it. I mean, are we talking at our arse?
Well, it's the same thing. Like the Italian, like, can you imagine the Italians with the Roman Empire now?
But totally.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose they do have quite a big opinion of themselves. All right, yeah.
But you couldn't see, I couldn't see the Italians having a Roman Empire these days.
You couldn't, I suppose. Yeah. Jesus. I suppose, so much water has passed under that bridge, I suppose.
It's true. Well, Mussolini tried to bring it back, but that didn't go to plan either.
No. Oh, yeah. Yeah, people often forget about that in the Second World War, don't they? Like, Italy. But, like, they were as complicit as anybody, really, weren't they?
They started. Well, they didn't start it, but they were fighting in Abyssinia for no particular reason before the war. Yeah, they almost lost as well.
Who were they fighting?
Just Haile Selassie, the Ethiopians. Just cause.
You Jesus, because you never put those two together. You're like, oh yeah, well, the Italians and the Ethiopians don't get on.
Yeah.
Well,
no, yeah, it's,
I mean, you would say, the Belgians and Africans, I can see that.
Yeah. There's a history there, but no, because Italy wanted the sort of North African territory back, which is the reason Rommel had to get involved in North Africa as well, because the Italians were getting their ass handed to them by the English. So that's why the Germans sent over the Africa Corps to bail them out, basically. And there's an argument that the invasion of Russia was delayed. The German invasion of Russia was delayed because the Germans were using soldiers to bail out the Italians in places like Greece and North Africa, and they had to delay the return of those crack troops back to the Eastern Front then. And that's why it was pushed forward, which is why they didn't reach it to Moscow before winter, and that is one of the reasons why the Germans didn't take Russia.
Right.
Supposedly. Some people disagree with that, but at the same time it's an interesting hypothesis that it was all Italy's fault.
Fuck it, we'll put it down so it's all.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, Germany probably, they really took the ball and ran with it, like, you know.
Yeah. And with them very, very abruptly tripped. But
Yeah. And I mean, sitting here in the Michael Collins room, as you can see.
There's an element of hagiography going on here.
Yeah, I mean, it's paper mache at its finest.
I must admit, I find Irish history terribly dull.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. Like, I mean, what's the lack of flair that you don't?
I mean, it's just, once you get into the 20th century in Ireland,
Yeah.
or even the 19th century, it's just so depressing.
Mm.
Like,
Is it the weather?
Yeah, I fucking must be. Well, it's just obviously there's a lot of romance attached to it.
Yeah, of course.
Even Michael Collins, De Valera, their personal vendetta, or even if it is a vendetta, but that's now trumpeted by other people now in the modern day. Just,
Yeah.
people fall out on one side or the other, but I mean, obviously you appreciate what the people did back in the day, but at the same time there's a total lack of perspective on what they were doing. I mean, if there is this school of thought that if you took the 1916 uprising and put it in a modern time, people would call them terrorists and they would be frowned upon massively. Now, I'm not sure if I agree with that, but it's an interesting idea.
That is, I mean, it is. I mean, by the same token, I suppose what the IRA were doing in, I suppose, relatively recent times, let's say the 70s and that, they probably viewed what they were doing the same as what Collins and his men were doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, with their guerrilla warfare tactics. Like.
Yeah, and I mean, the IRA put on a clinic on how to conduct guerrilla warfare.
They were the greatest. They were the first. They were probably the forefathers of it. Really, were they?
Yeah, like I used to do a joke. Don't do it anymore. That the Irish invented modern terrorism.
Well, they did.
Yeah,
they fucking did. I mean, if it was a sod of turf, you know, over some Semtex.
Yeah, exactly. The system worked, but I think the with 1916 in particular, there's so much romance attached to it.
Yeah,
which is completely understandable because you have martyrdom as a key theme for it, because you have all the leaders getting killed. But if those leaders hadn't been killed, it wasn't a popular uprising for the most part.
Wasn't it? No,
I don't think so. I think most of the citizens of Dublin were quite annoyed at the fact their city was being blown up by the British.
Right, yeah. And I mean, do you think they were happy being under British rule? Was Ireland ticking along okay at the time?
Was it a minority movement? Maybe, I don't know. But once the leaders get killed, that's when there's a real shift of attitude.
Right, yes, yeah.
Because that you allow so much propaganda with that, and often very accurate propaganda. But if you can vilify the British as they're killing supposed legitimate leaders in a war, then your country's doomed at that point.
Well, why did De Valera have such a bee in his bonnet? Like, I mean, he was doing all right for himself prior to this, like, wasn't he?
I mean, everyone's looking for a cause in their life, right?
I suppose, yeah.
I actually don't know that much about De Valera and his motivations, because as I said, I tend to stay away from 20th century Irish history, which might come across in my rather frivolous analysis of it there, but...
That's grand.
Yeah, exactly, that's grand. 18th century, that's my jam.
Right, let's go back there then. What was Ireland like 18th century?
So, in the early... Obviously, it's still under British control.
Yeah.
We just had the flight of the wild geese, and the William of Orange, Battle of the Boyne, that had just happened. So, most of the Irish Catholic nobility had either been killed or had moved to continental Europe, or was content under the control of William of Orange.
Right.
And so Ireland was sort of doing its own thing under British rule. Penal laws are starting being put in place. The stuff that I research is the Irish soldiers who fled and served in foreign countries, specifically France.
Right.
Because there was a massive movement of troops
to
France. Because James II was over there.
Okay.
And
who's James II?
James II...
was he successor to William?
No, he was the one before William.
Sorry, right.
The one before William. He's the guy who William was brought over to replace, because James II was Catholic, and he had a Catholic son, and this scared the shit out of Parliament because they didn't want a Catholic.
It always does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like I watched a Netflix documentary last night on. Well, it was just kind of a fly in the wall reality TV show of the Cavendish family, the Dukes of. Oh Jesus, that's how well I watched it last night. But it had gone back. It had done their family tree and how they're still successful. You know what I mean? But it was. I mean, they done fuck all in the way of warring. I mean, as you can imagine, like, you know, they wore the uniform and stood there. One guy got shot, all right, but there was it was JFK's sister and one of the Cavendishes totally fucking hit it off. There was terror. Wait to hear this. There was absolute terror that when they got married that they were going to have a Catholic son and a fucking Catholic would become Duke. Yeah. But he died. He died of alcoholism early enough. And she did have a son for him.
Yeah.
But her plane went down.
Ah.
Now, I mean, the Kennedys are an unlucky bunch.
They are.
But,
yeah,
her plane hit a mountain, apparently. Yeah.
It's not the only Kennedy to die in a plane.
Yes. Yeah.
The other test... Well, it wasn't a test pilot, was it? It was I wouldn't have taken on that mission.
No. Sorry, who's back? No, not today. No. So, sorry, going back then. Yeah, so
James II has a Catholic son. This scares the shit out of Parliament, and Parliament...
How does a Catholic get into power back in those days? Because I thought... I mean, obviously, we were Catholic then. William of Orange came along.
Yeah.
You know, changed the fucking playing field. I mean, obviously, Catholics... Let's go back another one, because I've never investigated it properly. How did Protestantism come about? Can you clarify it?
Martin Luther nails his 95 Theses to the door of Wittenberg Cathedral as a protest as to the way he feels Catholicism is in the current state. People doing things like selling indulgences or the various big sins like nepotism.
There were some valid points.
Yeah, 100%.
Like Luther, like if you were going to go back down the route, I reckon Lutheranism. If you were going to pick a religion and you're agnostic right now, if you're going, I want to be. I think Lutheranism.
It's got some premise.
Yeah,
for sure. And then a lot like other people take on his ideas. People like John Calvin in Geneva, and Calvinism then becomes a thing, which becomes very popular in places like France, in England, and then subsequently, I suppose, by extension, Ireland. Henry VIII wants to wife swap Catherine of Aragon.
Yeah.
It's not the same as she once was. She's not given him a son, so Anne Boleyn looks pretty sexy.
Okay,
let's have a divorce. Dear Pope, can I have a divorce? Because I think Henry VIII was named Protector of the Faith at one point.
Right.
He was a big boy in the Catholic circle. And then he wants this divorce. The Pope obviously says no. So Henry says, well, feck off. I'm going to do my own thing. So he sets up his own religion and dissolves all the monasteries, takes a lot of their wealth. And then the Church of England is born. And I suppose by extension, you then have the Church of Ireland. With things
so are all his cardinals and all his priests?
Yeah.
Do they all go, fine? We need new names, and I'll be a vicar. Can I marry?
Some of them are okay with it.
Okay, right.
A lot of them aren't.
Yeah,
but they're the ones that the monasteries are stepped on very quickly, and that they lose pretty much all their power, which is probably the reason why they're not okay with it.
Yeah.
Actually, there's a very good book series called the Sharldrake series that is set during that time. It's like a detective story. Recommend it, but it's a murder mystery in a monastery. It's excellent, but a bit of light reading. So this happens, and then the Church of England becomes more concrete. Then you've got Bloody Mary, who's Catholic, and she does take some steps to reverse it. Then Elizabeth comes in, and she's quite mild towards the Catholics. There's this theory that Queen Elizabeth was, really.
Did she have timber teeth?
Did she have timber teeth? Probably.
Okay.
There's a high chance.
Yeah.
Because dentistry was not really a thing back then.
Yeah.
So Elizabeth does her thing. She's pretty chill with the whole situation, and then she dies childless.
Oh yeah.
And you need to get a replacement, so they bring in James I, who was James VI of Scotland.
Right.
So they bring him down, and
was he related at all?
Yes, I think they were cousins. I really should have done some research.
No, I didn't give you any subjects at all.
That's a fair point. Yeah. That's a fair point. I can't remember the exact relation, but there was some connection.
Yeah.
It goes something to do with Mary Queen of Scots, because I think he was related to her, and they were maybe cousins.
Oh, there is a good movie coming out. Well, it looks good, but it's probably going to annoy the shit out of you. It's about the relationship between Mary Queen of Scots and Elizabeth.
Yeah. Well, it may or may not annoy the shit out of me.
It probably will. Well, probably will. You'll pick it apart going. It
can't be as bad as Braveheart, but...
Yeah, right enough.
Yeah.
Right enough.
Braveheart and the Patriot can go die in a hole. That's the... To be honest, any historical movie Mel Gibson touches pisses me the fuck off.
Yeah.
Hacksaw Ridge in particular. So, Hacksaw Ridge takes this amazing story of this pacifist who goes to war and saves all these people's lives.
Spider-Man, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
And cuts out the first half of it, because the whole thing is, it's his first engagement, and they need to grow to trust him. But Okinawa wasn't the first time he was in battle. He was in battle before that. But they completely gloss over that because it ruins the story.
It wouldn't have ruined the story.
Right?
It would have totally teed up why he ended up...
So by Okinawa, his men knew what he was up to. He knew he was a good medic.
What the fuck?
Right?
Why would you cut that? Jesus. Because I actually felt it was like, wow, we're quick into this thing.
Yeah.
So he's hanging around with the girlfriend, and now he's like, well, oh, wait, what? Where did the passive... It shocked me, not in a good way. It was like, lads, you definitely missed 20 pages of script here.
No, 100%.
There is definitely 20 pages of script missing here.
Like that wasn't the first time he was in that. Like, Desmond Doss's story is incredible. Really, really
phenomenal, like.
And, like, okay, Gibson does a good job of portraying his actions on Okinawa. That's all well and good. However, the bit after that where, you know, the Americans are waiting for Doss to pray, and then they do this heroic crusader-like charge through the Japanese, that's just Mel Gibson.
Yeah.
With the Jesus symbology and all that jazz. But
well, I mean, I'm amazed he didn't stick in something about karate, because it is where karate was founded, was Okinawa.
Yeah. It's two extras in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, there he is.
So we're back. We jumped into Hacksaw Ridge there.
Sorry. So James the First starts the line, the Stuarts, and then you've got, I think it's Anne, then Charles, I think. And Charles the First, obviously...
Are we still Catholic at this stage?
We're still Catholic.
And we're on the throne?
Well, yeah, I think so. No, we're not. No, we're not. Shite. Charles II was Catholic, I think. Or he was sympathetic to Catholics, but James was a Catholic. Yeah.
So did Charles I flip?
Jesus, I can't remember, and I really should know this.
Okay, well, if he didn't flip, don't worry about it.
Flip. But anyway, the English Civil War happens. That's a big event. And simultaneously...
This is something I know nothing about, the English Civil War.
Oh, yeah.
What year are we talking here?
So that's with Charles I. That's Oliver Cromwell.
Sorry, yeah.
So Cromwell and Parliament...
Nobody has any love for Cromwell at all, do they?
No. But I think a lot of the vilification of him should be directed elsewhere. I think that, as one of my lecturers when I was doing...
Because he was good at what he fucking did.
He was, and he was also a very devout man. So this idea of him being this hideous butcher doesn't really stack up.
It's easier for people to wrap their head around.
Yeah, no doubt what he did in certain towns. Drogheda obviously was...
Yeah.
But he absolved himself of that by saying, oh, my men did it, it wasn't me.
Well, fuck that.
Yeah,
no.
Which is the reverse of I was only
You're taking the big
orders.
paycheck home. Yeah. Because apparently there's a certain respect for him in Clonmel.
Yeah.
Because after like the 5th day of trying to break through the barricades, he noticed that the shells the bullets they were firing was of silver.
Yeah.
And he figured if people are ready to melt down their silver, there's no breaking these people.
Yeah.
It would seem he backed away then.
So, yeah, I mean, he if you were to make a list of the top 10 bastards in Irish history, I don't think Cromwell would crack it. That's me quoting one of my historians.
You reckon he wouldn't get into the top 10?
People don't think so. Like there are worse people. Now, don't ask me to name them, but
yeah, no.
As I said, this is me.
That's interesting. He wouldn't crack the top 10.
Yeah. So while the English Civil War is happening, in Ireland you've got a rebellion happening because there always is.
Yeah.
This is the War of the Confederation of Kilkenny, which was set up after there was a revolution in...
Was Kilkenny trying to secede from the Union?
No, they just used it as sort of like a base.
Wexford did, though. Wexford had notions of actually seceding, didn't they?
I mean, maybe.
I think they did, yeah. They still talk of... Like, there's still... That is the south of Ireland. Like, Wexford definitely had notions. And they reckon they would have seceded too, or actually succeeded. Only for a minor mess up. Like it wasn't a catastrophic failure from the outset. They were going to. I think they'd garnered good favour with somebody high up in Britain. Where
was it Wexford where the papal banner was unfurled and they declared a crusade against England?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that'll add up. Notions.
So again, I mean, if you had the Vatican on your side coming in from around the back, I mean I suppose they could have brought Spain on board, but Spain tried to help us out, I suppose, in the past too.
Yeah. Spain and France both continue to try to help us out.
Hence whave so many, dark-haired, curly-haired people in West Cork and Kerry.
Absolutely.
Half the Kerry team all looked like they could. Have you seen it? Like it's all large noses and curly hair with tans. You're like, that's not... Somebody stayed.
Yes.
Somebody stayed.
Somebody thought, this is the place for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So going back to...
So, there's a rebellion happening in Ireland at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And the rebellion in Ireland basically falls apart due to infighting. The Confederation is supposed to be working with the Duke of Ormond, but the Duke of Ormond is... The Confederation is alienated by a papal representative called Rinuccini. It gets very complicated, lots of factions, that sort of thing. And eventually Cromwell comes over and steps on all of them. When he's finished with England, he comes over and puts Ireland in its place. That's when he does things like destroys Drogheda.
It's Cromwell's, like, it's his end goal to actually take the crown himself, like.
Well, he doesn't want to be a king.
Okay.
Yeah, so
Does he want to form a republic?
Sort of. He just basically wants to be the man in charge.
Okay.
But he believes that Charles I was too decadent. And
okay, so that's where I suppose his as you said, like his religious background came from. He's probably a bit more humble, probably might have been the worst bloke ever. So if that's the case, if he was trying to form, an out and out republic, probably would have been a bit of a communist, I suppose, in the end.
Maybe actually, yeah. Yeah, now no doubt he was not necessarily a pleasant man.
Yeah, okay.
I think he's certainly over vilified, for sure.
Isn't that funny? Like, when you read it, and you're taking we're totally guessing what the personality of somebody was like.
Yeah.
He could have been an unbelievably nice bloke, like.
Oh yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and just whoever wrote the history books went, oh, do you know what?
Oh,
that fucking. He is such a dick.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He smited my sister because he said she was ugly. Dickhead in the books.
Absolute prick.
And now we're all knowing him as a
yeah.
Could have been a lovely fella. He could have rescued kittens and stuff. I mean, that was now how true the story is, but that was the one in Clonmel. It was that. Yeah, all right. I mean, if you're going to back away, at least he didn't go. They're down to silver.
Yeah,
we'll keep going, lads. They've got nothing left after that.
Exactly. Yeah.
He had a war respect at that stage. Going, all right, they've hit rock bottom. Fair play to him, like.
The Cromwell is sort of like this lucky general as well, because he sort of came up in England in particular. He came about and just happened to be good at war because he was like a politician. He had no real background.
Really?
Yeah.
How is that, I wonder?
Natural gift. Or he wasn't particularly charismatic, so maybe he's just. I don't know. Maybe he was fighting against incompetence.
Because when you look at it, like, I mean, have you watched the new Gary Oldman Darkest Hour?
No, I haven't. Although I've heard it's quite patriotic.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
It is for sure. Like, it is for sure. But I mean, there isn't an awful lot of war in it. It really is about the tactics and the undermining, and like, I mean, there was kind of an element of they were going, look, we could just go with the communist side of things, like, and he wasn't having it like to the last minute. Apparently, he got tobacco poisoning from the amount of tobacco because he just stayed smoking cigars, but he does get into character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were $500 a piece, these cigars. He got the best cigars there were, like.
Christ. Yeah.
But how did, like, I mean, he was like, by the talks of it was how he came to power first. Like, everybody was going backing him to be shite.
Oh, Churchill?
Yeah.
Oh, he was an absolute bastard.
Right.
But he's one of history's top bastards, actually.
Really?
The top 10 in Irish history, Churchill will be up there. He was a prick. Because he sort of viewed the Irish as like the little colony that should behave itself.
Oh, right. He was on the... Right.
That's really sort of his perspective. And he had no problem sending the Irish in the first wave in Gallipoli, let me tell you.
Yeah. How many went down in Gallipoli? Irish, we'll say.
Well, the Dublin Fusiliers got absolutely massacred. So, however many signed up to them, I suppose.
But how was there still like, I suppose, post the 20s, how was there still... I mean, I know there are still armed, there's the Irish Guard still, and the Welsh and British Guard, or whatever. But those are lads who've chosen to be in that. Like, how was there still in the 40s, I should say, Dublin Fusiliers, like?
Oh, the Gallipoli was during World War One.
So sorry, I beg your pardon. Sorry, yeah.
That's far later on. But there's still there was remnants of regiments that, mainly from the north, like I think the 27, right. The Enniskillings anyway, obviously.
Yeah.
But they trace their history way far back. Because Enniskillen, during the Confederation Kilkenny War, and also the later on the 9 Years' War, which is the one with James and William, they batter each other.
Right.
Like, Enniskillen is this like hub for people to just bait the shite.
Have you been to Enniskillen?
I haven't.
It is one... I've never come across a town where everybody's so nice.
Really?
Unbelievable. Unbelievably pleasant.
Yeah. I
built a golf course there once in a previous life when I was civil engineering. And I used to have to stay up there for 4 and 5 day bouts every maybe 3 weeks. Everybody I met seemed to be really happy.
Well, historically, they're hard bastards and they know how to fight.
But you would imagine like there'd be a cold show to them, because sometimes when you do meet like border places and stuff like that, the older generation, they had a tough upbringing because they were almost people without out of land. They didn't know what the hell was going on because you're so close to the border. You're probably getting a bit of harassment. You're doing nothing wrong.
Yeah,
you're under a grey cloud all the time throughout the 70s and 80s. So, and you meet those people now. They seem to be a bit, the crack is not 90.
No,
But when I was in Enniskillen, and I mean clearly, I'm from the south, clearly. I mean, the reg plate on the fucking Jeep was Cork even, like, you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
But it actually struck me how pleasant they were. At first I was kind of going, are you overselling yourselves? Like, but fair, and if you are, I like it. But after being up there for a while, they seem to be a really content bunch of nice people.
I mean, they're doing too pleasant.
Maybe
suspiciously pleasant.
Maybe, or maybe it's like, when you I talked about this, and last week was a friend of mine. He's a pro fighter and probably one of the most gentle people you've ever met in your life.
Exactly.
Like, maybe that's it.
Yeah.
So maybe they're just inwardly very confident. If it all broke down, well, yeah, we got this.
Yeah, it's the whole.
What was going on in Kilkenny then?
So Kilkenny, have you ever been? Kilkenny. There's the big house on the main street.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know it. I know where you're on about.
They set up a parliament there.
Right.
And the idea, it was to give some legitimacy to the war that was being fought, the rebellion that was being fought. And the idea was that...
Instead of the kangaroo courts that kind of carry on what's going on, yeah.
Exactly. So they tried to get people, nobles, to represent themselves there. And they got all the nobles who were willing to sign up there. So people like the O'Briens, all that sort of thing. Set up shop there. And it had a mini government system in the 1640s. And then, unfortunately, the papacy got involved. They sent them a load of money with this guy called Rinuccini, who fancied himself a general but had no military experience.
With a name like Rinuccini.
Yeah.
He's showing up flash as fuck.
Like, so he comes over packing a serious amount of cash and
hit the strip club.
Yeah. He doesn't want to give it to the rebels unless they do what he says.
Oh, right. Was this fella thinking of setting up shop himself? Or had he, on the way over, gone... He felt so, he felt like such an important bloke that he was like, okay.
Yeah, he just had notions.
Right.
And he would, for example, turn up to sieges and tell people how to fight the siege. And
really?
People sort of go, no. Because a lot of the rebel commanders would have had experience in Europe.
Yeah.
That's a trend that happens throughout Irish history, in the 17th century in particular, is that because basically the Spanish and the Dutch were bashing each other consistently throughout. Loads of people got service over there, loads of people got experience over there, then came back to Ireland with knowledge of how to fight. It's not that there's this myth that the Irish were lovable incompetents.
They
absolutely weren't. They knew what they were doing for the most part. Particularly as Ireland has a different climate to England. So English soldiers coming over would get sick.
Okay,
there's a different disease climate here, so they would get dysentery, that sort of thing, serving over here. So having well laid out camps was really important, and Irish guys that learnt that in the Netherlands and the Low Countries brought that back over, and Irish soldiers would be better off in their camps.
Because they were of a tougher breed too, I suppose.
Yeah, they'd grown up there. They knew what they were doing.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
And what business had we in Holland? Who were we there on behalf of?
Again, that's just the wild geese, the Irish serving abroad.
Okay, yeah. I mean, because there was, I don't know who I was, because there was... talking to, they were saying a relative of theirs fought in the Boer War.
Yeah.
I was like, what in the hell was an Irish relative of yours doing? It's like, well, it would have been, they were just sent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Down to South Africa or whatever.
I would reckon that we have fought in almost every single European war. In some capacity. I reckon there's been an Irish person involved in most of them. And definitely most wars in the US as well.
Well, even there was somebody, was it Aidan Killian, I think, was talking about it. He lives in Thailand now.
Yeah.
And he's been to Vietnam a few times. And he had to pay to get into Vietnam as an Irish person coming from Thailand. I don't know if it's the same. And it was only a small fee.
Yeah.
But it was like a tax because it was only, would say it was €50 or it was $100 or whatever. But it was, and he was like, why? And a friend of his who was, I don't know who his friend was, but his friend didn't have to pay.
Yeah.
And I said, why me? And as it transpired, it was because because Americans would still have to pay. Ireland was seen as a past enemy of Vietnam because 2,500 Irish soldiers had fought in Vietnam.
I believe it.
It's kind of like...
Oh, we get around. Like, there's elements. There's one of my favourite stories about it is.
Just imagine an Irish fella turning up in the war of the hot gates with the 300.
Oh, yeah, lads.
How's it going? No six pack, no nothing. Just an actual six pack under his arm.
And a shillelagh. Well, there's a story of during when the Mexicans were fighting against the Americans at one point. There's the St. Patrick's Artillery Company, all Irish lads who'd escaped from the American army and joined the Mexicans as their artillery.
Really?
Yeah. Again, there's a theme as well running through Irish history where we always seem to be cut to pieces or die to the last man, but that's pretty consistent.
Right.
We seem to enjoy a good massacre. The most tragic example is at Fredericksburg in the American Civil War. This battle in 1862, which was a complete disaster for the Union. They advanced up a hill onto a stone wall, and the stone wall was defended by rebel troops, and they shot them all.
Right.
There's a brief synopsis. But there's at one stage, the 69th New York, who are the Fighting Irish, the famous, the Dropkick Murphys have a song about them.
Yes,
the Wolf Tones do. And they attack this stone wall and are met by a lot of Irish people fighting on the Confederate side. And
Jesus.
The Confederates cut them to pieces. So you got a mini Irish on Irish fight there, and no mercy shown. Really brutal stuff.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Fair play, like, rock up there, just to love a good fucking war.
Well, because they thought that, if we fight for the two different ideals, I suppose. There's a scene in it, and I think it's in Gods and Generals, the movie about it, where they show both sides. And I think the Confederate guy says, don't they realise that if the Confederacy wins, we'll have a better chance of independence in Ireland or something like that. So I don't know how accurate that perspective is, but
okay, right.
It's an interesting idea. But we get around, we fight everywhere.
Yeah. It was my great-grandfather, no, he didn't fight or whatever, but he had become an American citizen. He moved over to America, opened a couple of shops in Chicago, but then had to move home because the farm had to go to him. And back then you can't go, no, you're grand.
Yeah.
You had to come home and take the farm. But his, like the likes of the Black and Tans and stuff like that, they couldn't touch his place because he had the American flag hanging off the front of it. Like, cute or like.
Yeah.
So there's always a backstory. Like, there's always, like, the Irish don't fight. There's almost a mercenary vibe to them because they're not, they haven't, like, they were still calling themselves Irish.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? They hadn't and their notions in the back of their head was, listen, if the Confederacy goes well here,
we're good.
You know what I mean? So there's always a backstory, just like mercenaries. They're always looking for a payout,
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's a document from the Spanish servers where they say the Irish are great because they're cheap to feed and they fight well. Because we go on one stew and we march all day.
I suppose that's why we made so good at construction in the 60s and 50s.
Yeah, maybe.
I do remember going back to when my J1 in America. I remember reading it was like on Fublocked or one of these, and it was 3 or 4 Irish fellas had been arrested for training FARC rebels in high-end guerrilla warfare down in, wasn't Chile, some South American country. Colombia. Yeah. They were 3, 2, 1, I think one was from the Republic, the rest of the lads were from the North, alright, but they basically had the book.
Yeah.
The
Raz guide to...
The Raz guide to raising hell, basically.
Yeah.
So that was brilliant. We'll wrap it up. Where can people follow you, find you?
So I have a Twitter at Andy Dorman. I mainly post jokes about history and shite. And as I say, I do have another podcast. It is for people playing Dungeons and Dragons. So if you're anyway interested in that, give that a listen. It's called 204 RPG. But beyond that, I'm around.
I'll put the link to it in the description of this too, so people can click through on it. Anyway, Andrew, thank you very, very much.
Pleasure, Tom.
Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Hey, well, there we are. Thank you very much, Andrew. Nice podcast. What you think, dog? Did you enjoy that one? You did. The tongue's fucking hanging out on you. Fair play to you. Like that. We're back with another Ramble Pod on Tuesday. But for now, if you don't follow me, if this is your first time listening, hit subscribe on whatever the fuck you're listening to on. We're pretty much on everything. I am expanding into other ones as per we're after getting more Patreon people, so you gotta pay for more hosting fees, but fuck it. That's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna expand the fucking universe. The Buckshot universe. The revolution is on. Follow me on all social platforms, whether it be Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram on Tom O'Mahony Comedy. Chatty Snaps is Tom Bear O'Mahony, and if you want to look up any gigs, because I've updated the gigs, and there's definitely more to go on, but if I'm in a town near you, have a gander at tommahony.com/gigs. Fuck it, if you're listening on the Apple app, the Apple Podcast app, give us a rating, give us a 5-star. Do you want? Go on, if you listen this far, you enjoyed it enough, and you listen to a couple other ones, and you think it's worth it, give it a 5-star. Don't be worried about anything less than that. If you think it's only a 4-star, hang on to them, give them to somebody else. I want your 5 stars. And you know what? Leave me an old fucking comment at the bottom. I love the fucking comments at the bottom, and on top of that, it kind of helps move up the charts a little bit. Not that I give a fuck about getting, number 1 spot or any of that shit. I just want more people to tune in. The more people that tune in, the fucking better I can turn out more of these, because obviously we get more patrons. Have a gander at all those, from the Tea Republic shop to the fucking Patreons. Have a good weekend. Send on them all fucking pictures of any weird old shite you might be doing, and I'll chat to you on Tuesday. Good luck.